What is a sign that someone is lonely? I think some people tend to withdraw when they are lonely, even though that seems kind of counterintuitive. Especially in large groups of people. For example, I become a lot less participant and attentive when I'm in a group of more than 4 or 5 persons. In contrast, I get a lot more talkative in one-on-one situations. There's another thing that completely gives out that I'm lonely, but I don't know how common it is, to look at others from afar, contemplating how they talk, smile, and laugh, sometimes considering how to start a conversation, other times just wishing to be there interacting with them. Especially in large groups of people. For example, I become a lot less participant and attentive when I'm in a group of more than 4 or 5 persons. In contrast, I get a lot more talkative in one-on-one situations. I don't think that's loner lines, but rather being introvert. After a certain point, trying to meet people and make friends just becomes too painful. There's too much of you putting yourself out there and spending all of that energy to get nothing in return. Or what you get in return is disappointment, humiliation, or another reason to distrust people. After a while you become so jaded and sure that you will fail, because you've only ever failed, that it sucks the will to try right out of you. It's not counterintuitive. It makes perfect sense, but you need to experience it to understand why. I read this and died a little inside, really. I'd invited people when I was a manager at a theater to see movies before anyone else and bring any food they wanted because I was a projectionist. They didn't show and I watched movies like Sweeney Todd or the first Iron Man alone. The times people set up weekend lunches with me, only for me to show up and ask for a booth because my friends were coming. Then they'd text me 5 minutes past the time they were supposed to arrive and say they weren't coming. So you eat nachos alone with everyone staring at you for wasting a booth in a tiny restaurant. Always gotta love the classic as well of people speaking with you like they care, yet they just wanted information to use against you with a friend of theirs who is an asshole that dislikes you. So you think someone is finally interested in your opinions and they just wanted ammo. Oh, and you do kinda understand that when people meet someone, they want to spend more time with them, yet when they were your good friend and you keep getting cut out more and more, until they don't even Skype call anymore in the span of a year. It is a major downer because life left you behind again. Not just a friend leaving, but a reminder you're still alone. You gotta love asking people for help at work as well, only for them to laugh at your back because you can fix any issue they have. Yet you have issues drilling a hole in a giant wooden beam. Not something they really covered even in the books. So you get help lacking upper body strength. Yet despite being female because you are a little butch, you get joked about behind your back. Honestly, over the years I have come to find a great many reasons to dislike people, yet so very few to think they are any good at all. You see people constantly talk about hope for the future, acceptance or some other new world bullshit, yet they are generally people who have always had it good or life finally tossed them a bone for it to be better. Many of us just exist day to day. Small edit. I've never gotten Reddit gold. Thanks whoever that was. Now I need to Google what it does. Funny enough, I want to come for private screenings and bring my own food. That sounds awesome. 2 of my pet peeves. 1. How are you? I never express how I really am because no one actually gives a shit. So I always answer with, I'm fine thanks. Or if I say I'm not feeling well, they always have to top it. So even if I feel like shit, I downplay it so as to not get into a pissing contest. 2. I had another one a while back. I met a lady who I had known previously and wanted to catch up. She asked me questions and we chatted for a while. I happened to be around the corner and heard her saying to her friends, "Oh god, he yaks on." After that I didn't talk to her again, and whenever she asks me something it's short, concise answers. Oh, the second part makes my blood boil. If you're feeling shy or not in a talkative mood, they'll be like they never talk. If you're finally feeling friendly and sociable, OMG, they never shut up. Heard this too often and it makes me not know how to deal with people or afraid to step out. Yeah man, this dude wanted me to skip whitewater rafting with singles in Alaska to hang out with him and his married friends at a placid boring lake. Nothing like being the 11th wheel. Was ditched the next day for the sacrifice I made, so they would have enough fishing rods. They pretended they were leaving, but as I left I saw them circle around in my rearview mirror and go back. Maybe it's my personality that just sucks. But anyway, since then, whenever I see my bros or friends invite everyone except me on social media, I just go on some solitary action adventure. Probably the reason I have a motorcycle now. That's some bullshit right there. You're better off without people like that. Exactly. Life's too short for shit like this, man. Everyone needs at least one real friend, and people like this just get in the way of finding that. Have we met before? Because it's clearly me. I don't know why I'm doing this, since I want to be with people and I want them to care about me, but somehow I say some stupid shit to make them leave. Does someone know why this is happening? Maybe it is a case of subliminal self-loathing. You want them not to like you because who wants to know someone lonely anyway? Better to let them know as soon as possible that you are not worth knowing. So push them away by alienating yourself with stupid comments. I do the same all the time, and I think that's the reason I do it. It's a bad personality trait and I probably need help with it. Must be linked to having low self-esteem. For me personally, I'd say it's because of avoidant personality disorder. It's because I have extremely adverse reactions to rejection. So to compensate, I reject others on my own terms before they get the chance to reject me for who I truly am. It can also be seen as a form of testing people, which is awful. I'm trying to overcome this. When they overshare a little, not in a way that shows they have no clue what's appropriate, but when they do realize it's a little borderline but they don't have anyone else to talk to about whatever it is. Man, this is me so much. I try not to, but sometimes, especially when I'm having a less than great day, I just end up telling my entire life story to some person that I barely know or just on a random Reddit thread. You're going to think I'm joking, but I'm telling you the truth. Buy and consistently use a journal, a game. Not kidding. Just try it. This is like my local postie. When his wife died, I could tell he had nobody to talk to, so I made it a habit to sit out front and wait for the mail so we could have a chat. Love ya, Keith. They will put up with being treated worse than dirt by someone, trying to hold on to what they know are bad relationships because they do not want to be alone. Literally my last relationship. He treated me like dirt and I stayed for 10 months and he not once acknowledged me as his actual girlfriend. We spent 5+ nights a week together, went to the gym, cooked dinners and breakfasts. I knew everything about him, yet I wasn't his girlfriend in public. He fucked his ex-wife. I found out he was cheating because he wanted to use condoms again. He would squeeze my sides and call me fat, make piggy noises at me. I am 120 pounds and 5 feet 0 tall. I look great. It was the hardest thing letting go of him, even with how mean he was. I hate myself for it still. For staying for so long. Sometimes you meet goofball dopey cheesy personalities and they are the loneliest people out there. If they push you away in an unpopular way or don't want to be real with you, it might be because they assume the outcome will be rejection. which is something they've felt far too often. I'm guilty of this. I think my thought process is that if I can make people laugh, even at my own expense, they'll stick around for just a little while longer, or maybe even start to like me. For me, it's not talking when you're in a group of people. I just listen to what others have to say because I don't do anything that's interesting. I remember reading an article as a kid that said people will like you more if you ask them questions about themselves. For a long time, I lived by that idea and almost never offered stories of my own. Just questions about the other person. I was definitely a listener. On one hand, I loved it, because I was and still am a lover of a good story, and everything I was told let me know them in a way I felt no one else did. On the other hand, I found myself surrounded by a ton of friends that knew virtually nothing about me. This sounds like me. I'm a great listener. I love being a good listener. I love when people open up to me and show gratitude and surprise that I actually listen and not respond. But I wish someone would do that for me. I have done a lot of cool shit in my life, but the people around me don't know half of it. I still love to listen though. They rarely leave the house for any activity besides work. Frequently asks what others are doing. Never have any plans to spend their free time. Bitterness, maybe even jealousy towards others and their relationships. Never have any plans to spend their free time. This just hit me. Almost every time someone asks what I have planned for the weekend, I say nothing. Yeah, I get a little panicky and just make something up like gaming with friends, you know. Bitterness, maybe even jealousy towards others and their relationships. Nothing makes me happier than seeing another person happy. Nothing makes me sadder than seeing two people happy together. This is why so many people, myself included, hate holidays. It seems like everyone else on earth is happy and enjoying each other's company at parties. That emphasizes one, the fact that you're not currently, will never be, able to participate in that happiness, and two, the perception that there's some intrinsic flaw that prevents you from doing so. The perceived flaw is a source of shame which only worsens the isolation. They have difficulties communicating. When you've not spoken to people in a while, you stutter and become a complete mess. Oh God. This rings a little too close to home for me. If I'm around familiar people, I can't talk decently enough. Occasionally I mumble or mash words together, but most of the time I can be understood without issue. But if I'm in a group or get excited, I start to mumble a lot more and even develop a pretty bad stutter. Like my mouth cannot keep up with how fast my brain wants me to say words. I've ruined many excellent quips by either not being able to say them quickly or smooth enough, or saying it so quietly that half the group didn't hear me. Weirdly, if I'm speaking into a radio or phone, I have no issues at all. It's clear, concise, I don't stutter, and I even had one person tell me they got chills listening to me talk. He was half joking, but it was still a nice compliment. Dude, you just perfectly described the way I am in a group of people. The worst part is, after failing to participate in a conversation a few times, you give up altogether and just stand there quietly, and then the thoughts of missed opportunities for clever jokes haunt you for the next several days. The worst is when you make a joke too quietly and only one person hears and repeats it, getting all the credit and laughs. But at the same time, if you would have said it loud enough, you would have fucked it up or no one would have found it funny. Shit. I was wondering which point it was that caused me to stutter so much and mess up my words when I used to speak so eloquently. Honestly, this relieved me a little. I wondered why I was suddenly slurring my words and stuttering when I never had that issue before. I haven't had a group of friends since high school, so that would probably explain it. Wow, I'm not alone. I swear I've lost every bit of social skills I once had. Sucks so much, man. I sit really still for an extended amount of time and have gotten really good at ignoring everything around me. I make occasional eye contact and smile if someone walks past. I'm not upset or anything. I just know no one wants to interact with me, so I don't get myself excited. I just know no one wants to interact with me, so I don't get myself excited. Fuck, that hit too close to home. Knowing a lot about general daytime TV shows, a survey here a while back showed a lot of elderly people consider their TV to be their closest companion. Any girl they talk to, they immediately start liking them. Source: myself. Why do I fall in love with every woman who shows me the least bit of attention? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Anomalisa, also written by Charlie Kaufman, is the perfect mover reference for this thread and your comment. It's literally about a guy who is so lonely and bored with life that he becomes infatuated with someone because he hears her voice in the hallway of hotel he's in. Watch it. I'm a girl, but can confirm anytime a guy I am even slightly attracted to is nice to me, I get super emotionally invested straight away. Being lonely sucks. I can mentally fast forward through the next 20 years of our possible relationship in like a minute. I'll see this whole romance story and then marriage and honeymoon and settling down. Sometimes I get all the way to the point where we get sick of each other and break up. Lol. I swear, with any reasonably attractive woman who seems to understand me, I get a crush. I want to be like, no, this doesn't have to be weird. I'm cool about it, I swear, but I am weird about it and it doesn't end up well. Anyone else here steeped into a sort of apathy towards relationships? I still find myself crushing here and there, but I find it pointless before I begin. Tend to ruin things before I begin. Their eyes light up when talking with you, but start to diminish to darkness when it's over, or they feel like they're annoying you. Or at least that's what I feel like I do. Edit. Oh, and if you find someone like me who's doing this, whatever conversation I just faded away from, find out more if you can. Sincerely, all of us. I own a pub. Usually when people are sitting alone at the bar and drink a lot, it is a sign that they are feeling lonely. I usually play pool with them and invite them to my table. I think sometimes people, especially introverted people, just want to be around people without talking to people. I know I get that way. Working at a bar though, I'm sure you can tell when people really are down and out, and I'm sure they truly appreciate your warmth. I'm a hardcore homebody, but sometimes I like to plop myself down around a group of people and basically see where that goes. A lot of times nothing happens, but I just hang around, watch folk come and go, catch tidbits of conversations. Other times, people approach me and engage in conversation and stuff like that. I think you can tell those people apart though. I like to do this too. Sometimes I'll just read a book, and sometimes I'll make new friends. I just prefer to do my drinking not at home, so I don't feel like a loser for sitting at home alone drinking. Hearing that Piano Man song in my head right now. Yes, they're sharing a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. Yes, they're sharing a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. This is one of my favorite song lines, if that is the right word. Every time the song plays it stands out to me again. Really amazing. I tried this once. My friend ended up having to punch the guy in the face after he told us he was going to rape one of the girls we were with. This thread hits me like a fucking truck. So true. I think a sign would be that lonely people are those who never go with anyone, or unsure should they tag along with someone during break time. They usually just sit for a while fidgeting before leaving for the canteen. You don't find them excited about break, since you know it's already awkward enough. I have a group of friends I hang out with in my university. The thing is, I'm clearly the outsider of the group. I never get invited to the stuff they do. I get ignored sometimes. The only reason I hang out with them is that otherwise I would be lonely. Sometimes they laugh off the stuff I say, but I'm still like an outsider to the group. It's almost heartbreaking to go through this thread and upvote everything because it relates to me so much. Edit. Verb tenses are hard. Fiercely independent. Possibility of reliance on anyone is no longer an option. Can be good sometimes, but may push others away. Edit. Wow. Thank you so much for gold. I am independent because my experience is that most people are unreliable. Edit. This is now my top rated comment. That sucks. Edit 2. For all the people agreeing with this, there seem to be a lot of you. The answer to the problem is to be the reliable person yourself. To coin the phrase, be the change you want to see in the world. I am scrolling through this thread and kinda understanding the top level comments, and seeing all these people going, yet this one is me. But then I see your comment and yeah, this is the one, you nailed it, lol, thanks for this one. Me too. It actually is starting to worry my parents because they feel like I'll grow old without anyone. But I'm okay with that. I don't really want to depend on another person for my own happiness. Edit. I'm just at a point in my life where friends are starting to move out of state to make their own life. Where at 23 it's surprisingly difficult to make new friends in my everyday life. I don't really make an attempt at dating because the dating scene is too stressful for me. Where it feels more like a power struggle and it shouldn't. That I honestly found myself to be happier single than in a relationship. Not to say I was never happy in previous relationships, but that was before Tinder was the only go-to for dates. Now that it seems like my one and only outlet for dating, it doesn't seem worth it for me since I've had a miserable experience from using it. They find a sense of solidarity from reading these comments. Source: hi there. When they are not an active part of your life, or anybody else's, people that are truly lonely don't have people who are around them to see the signs. I feel like everyone I know assumes I have friends somewhere else, and that's why I'm so quiet around them. Everyone gives me my space and I talk to no one. I hate when people assume I'm married and ask about my wife. Really hits hard to be reminded that I'm strange because I'm alone. I don't have a lot of desire to have a wife. I'm pretty passive about the whole thing. If the opportunity arises with someone who I see as truly special, awesome. But I'm not going to get married for the sake of social expectations. But man, transitioning from my mid-20s to my late 20s, I'm starting to feel a lot of implied social pressure in that area. Absolutely. The same goes for depression. Either there's no one to see the signs in order to tell you, or you associate with the wrong people who actually see the signs but are too selfish or simply too uncaring to bring it to your attention in hopes of helping. This usually isn't noticed, but typing and then deleting messages a lot, I think. Looking back at what you wrote and just ditching it, which I literally caught myself doing to this reply, already hovered over the cancel button. Somehow deleting them and not sending them is better than sending them, because if you sent them you know you wouldn't get a response. But if you don't send them then there's a chance you might have gotten a response. One of the last people remaining without a group when the teacher announces a group project. This is my life. Social anxiety says no one wants you in their group. Maybe the teacher will have mercy and just let me work alone. This happened to me so much in high school. Always the outcast. Just sitting there, looking awkwardly at the other groups to see if maybe one was one person short, but at the same time hoping no one would notice me to avoid further judgment. The worst is when everyone around you looks at their friends super excited already knowing who they will partner with and you sit there like fuck. Or when you ask one of your friends to be in your group but they're already in a group with their real friends. Or when your friends are only your friends when they need help, and they disappear every other time. The only people that actively sought me out as a partner were ones who just kinda wanted to leech off me for a good grade. In my grad program had to do a group assignment where we developed a presentation to talk about an eye disease. I was the last person and the odd one out and nobody wanted a third person in the group, and because I was quiet they all thought I wouldn't be able to present. Yet, none of them gave me a chance at all. But, it didn't bother me too much that people felt this way because I can come off shy and quiet. It didn't make me feel lonely at all. It just allowed me to do what I wanted and not have to compromise with someone else who felt their ideas were better. Therefore I created a huge jello eyeball with a colored iris, pupil and veins. The eye was big and I was able to inject red liquid in different parts of the eye to show the blood flow in the veins. My presentation was to show and discuss retinal detachment. Everyone really enjoyed the presentation, and every project after where we had to partner up people wanted to work with me, but I would decline or they would ask me for ideas. I would refuse to do any of that. I know they thought I was weird, but it wasn't about that for me. It irritates me how people don't give a shit about someone who is quiet or seemingly shy until they see what they're capable of doing. This sounds really cool. How did you make it? How long did it take to make? Got any pictures? A huge jello eyeball would be great for Halloween. The other day in class the teacher split us in two groups to discuss a book and I didn't have a group. I sorta just sat there quietly while all the other groups did their thing. Or teams in gym class. I have a vivid, early memory of the gym teacher assigning me to a team for some relay race because nobody would pick me at the end. Some kid got so pissed that I got dumped on his team that he screamed at me and pushed me away. I always remember that that's how people feel about me. Worse, in the first week of school we knew we had to make groups for a history project next period, and someone said they wanted me in their group. Next period comes along and we get in groups and they ask why I'm there. They replaced me with someone else. This also happened the same week with different people in my chem class. In history a few months later, not only am I the only one without a partner, we have an even number of people in the class, so someone else didn't have a partner either and didn't want to raise their hand in fear of being partnered with me. From your story you didn't raise your hand either. They may have been just as terrified. Oh, sorry, forgot to mention I had my hand raised for 3 minutes and my teacher was calling out for the second person without a partner, who wasn't responding. Worst is when a teacher makes the groups herself and coincidentally forgets the real quiet and shy kid. Often talks about fantasy worlds in reality, also may quote them or do actions from them. Regularly has no response when spoken to, due to lack of participating in conversations. Scrolling through social media in group environments. Frequent checking of phone, same handful of social apps. Constant apologizing or giving to friends so they'll stay around. Source, me. This thread feels like a personal attack. I hate being alive. I know this doesn't answer the cue. But does anyone have any tips on breaking out and actually talking to people and forming friendships, and how do you go beyond small talk? Like, how do you jump from talking about X to hey let's hang out sometime and sure here's my number? Any tips on breaking out and actually talking to people and forming friendships? I think the answer to this changes a little depending on your situation, but hopefully one of my anecdotes can be useful for you. When I was in college and didn't know anybody, I made myself go to the computer lab, went up to people I saw from my classes and used that as an icebreaker. Hey, you're in computer graphics, right? Have you made any progress on the assignment? That's almost exactly what I said to the girl who later became my close friend for the remainder of the year. All it took was saying hello over common ground. After I graduated and was looking for friends again after moving to a new city, I decided I wanted to get serious about learning Japanese and joined a language school nearby. Every so often the staff organized get-togethers for the students. I made sure to go to those and went up to people and said stuff like, "Hi, my name's X. How's it going? I just started here months ago and I love it. How about you?" etc. Ended up going to dinner with several people from other classes for a few weeks. When I started my current job, I made myself go to the team lunches and I sat next to the people I thought looked fun or interesting. Then I'd start a conversation with them, which leads into the next thing. How do you go beyond small talk? People you don't know too well generally need a bit of a warm-up period before they feel comfortable going beyond small talk. This can happen over the course of weeks, days, or even in the same conversation. It depends on the person and the topic. I work in it, and because of that I can assume certain things about new people. They probably likes gaming and anime, so I can take certain shortcuts to see if we have any common interests. At one of our company events recently, I got to know the new guy by talking about gaming. We're not sharing life secrets or anything, but it's still what I'd consider to be deeper than small talk. I started that conversation by commenting on the arcade near the place we were having lunch at. We started talking about fighting games soon thereafter. It just takes a single sentence to start a fun conversation with someone. It's not easy to go up to people I don't know and say hello. That said, there's no way I would have met the people I did if I didn't take it upon myself to walk up to them first. But that initiation by me was made possible by the fact that I already knew beforehand that we had something in common. School, a hobby, work, etc. From there it's way easier to approach a person because chances are they've seen you already and know your face even if they don't know your name. People are more receptive if they think you're not a complete stranger. Lastly, if you happen to be struggling with this as I once was, couldn't get myself out of my room some days, then take it in small steps. Smiled at someone I recognize from class. That's a win today. I'll try more tomorrow. Made some small talk with someone but ended the conversation after about a minute. That's a win too. Social skill takes practice and you can work on these building blocks. Eventually you'll become comfortable with asking for people's numbers and asking for hangouts. It won't be comfortable at first, and if you're like myself, the first time will be pretty nerve-wracking. It does get easier though because each attempt is practice for the next attempt. I wrote a lot. I hope it was helpful in some way. I tried to abstract out all the stuff I did since it's impossible for me to list out an exhaustive set of rules, which I don't think exist anyways. I used to be incredibly shy. I didn't go to parties. I stayed home all weekend. I never invited people over. I didn't make friends. I made a conscious effort to force myself to interact with strangers even if I felt awkward during or afterwards, and it happened often. It took a few years before I was confident in myself and felt like I was a likable guy that other people wanted to be around. I think you can make that change in your own life too. You am a Tumblr and you Empire of 3 mentioning you guys in case you guys wanted to read my experiences. Constant apologies and bribery. I don't have many friends and I find myself apologizing for every little thing I do. If I could make one blanket apology for my existence I would. I think since I'm lonely I overcompensate and try to please everyone to receive any sort of social validation. I'm worried I'll drive away anyone who comes into my life. So I'll be as agreeable as possible. It's the same reason I like to bake. People care about you a little bit when you have cookies. Had an elderly neighbor once. She silently outlived everyone she'd ever called a friend. Children neglected her and everyone in the building quietly resented being trapped in the stairwell, where she could talk for hours on end. The smell of cookies gave her away, long before you could see her. One cold, rainy Sunday I decided to get off my ass and visit, see how she was doing, and soothe my own lonely heart with cookies instead of whiskey. She made me lunch and we talked. Well, she talked and I listened. She made me dinner. Around 8 p.m. she pulled out the photo album and fought through tears as we leafed through pictures of her late husband. Pictures of her kids, who she was so proud of. It was at this moment that I pulled a few wrinkled, aged photos from my wallet and pasted them in her album. Photos of me in my youth, cheerful and amongst friends. She held my hand and gawked at them, snickering at my brother's mullet. The kettle began to whistle so I went to care for it. She smiled and said I was a sweet boy, as I returned with the tea. I saw her fingers clutching the newly pasted photo, a big grin across her face. "Mrs. Davis," I whispered, sure she was only fixated on the photo. A new memory for an old gal. But she was gone. Happy, and with a friend who now aches every time they smell fresh baked cookies. Lots of welfare calls in the city and I always wonder if they go out amongst friends or pass uninterrupted as they fixate on a telephone or doorbell that never rings. Oof, this resonates. Used to work as a cashier at the supermarket. There were a couple of elderly people that would chat to you for ages. One used to buy a lot of alcohol. Pretty sure this was for solo consumption. It was difficult. They were so lonely that you couldn't help but be nice to them. But so often they irritated the rest of the customers waiting to pay for their things. If you want to help with not apologizing for everything, turn your sorries into thank yous. Example, instead of "sorry I'm late," say "thank you for waiting for me. I used to be a chronic apologizer, and it always made my friends so uncomfortable. But when I started saying thank you instead of sorry, it made things a lot less awkward." It's a good thing you explained the whole thank you idea, because if I decided to take your advice I legitimately would have gone with "thank you, I'm late," and NBSP. Edit. Who knew my occasional lack of common sense would have gotten me Reddit gold someday. And no, I wasn't being sarcastic. More emphasis on the word legitimately. Used to be me. Then I just started acting really fucking weird all the time instead. Instead of everyone feeling neutral about you, they either like you or they don't. It's fantastic. Feels very freeing. And I'm a lot more comfortable in social situations because I feel less like I have to focus on making a good impression. I do the same as you. I apologize too much, and I to share your reason to do so compensate to receive validation. However, there is another reason for it, that because loneliness can escalate to become a heavy burden, often hurting oneself and going as far as disconnecting you from the world, losing most if not all emotional attachments, that whenever you start feeling companionship, you empathize. You don't want to turn away others in the same way you were. You want them to feel accepted, even if it is in just a small way, since the energy and confidence to commit too much is not always there. Being really obsessed with fictional worlds, more than a typical fan would be, at least in teenagers, young adults. Lots of teens who write fanfiction, writing smutty or romantic stuff if they are particularly lonely in the romantic sense, roleplay, or are obsessed with fandoms I find to have less friends in real life. This is me. Fandoms are a huge distraction for me, and they're the only ones I can turn to whenever I'm feeling lonely, because I know they'd never let me down and that there's always something new waiting for me. Plus it's also really hard making friends IRL when they're not really into what you're into. Suddenly reaching out to people they rarely talk to and or don't particularly like that much anyway. Lonely person here. One quirk I've noticed of people like me is we don't post anything on Instagram because, well, I just don't go out. Another thing is that I'm really nice to everyone but can't make good conversation. It's pretty sad, but I'm honestly fine as is. I've been lonely for a few years now. I have gotten pretty good at holding conversations, but the longer I know someone, the more uncomfortable I am talking with them. I'm just not used to getting that far into a friendship and don't know what to say or how to act. A trick you might try: just asking the other person or people what they like to do or what they are interested in. Hear them out, then maybe think of something you like that is similar or different. Once you settled on some topics, then discuss the idea of doing some of them. If it's camping, actually go camping. If it's music, go listen to music. You get the picture. Relationships start with talk and then naturally gravitates to physical activity, not sex. Go out and do some things together. That activity will most likely spawn new and interesting conversations as well. Then, rinse and repeat. I opened my Instagram account 5 months ago and I only have 3 posts, and no stories at all. Most people in my class say I am really cheerful, yeah, it's easy to be nice to people, but holding a meaningful conversation is really hard. Convincing yourself you are undateable, and being convinced anyone flirting with you is only doing so to laugh at you or manipulate you. That girl smiled at you. She's interested in you. No, she isn't. Hey, I'm interested in you. No, you aren't. Even if you are. It's even worse when you convince yourself for a little while that that's not the case, and then find out it is. I would literally be unable to process a girl actually flirting with me. Total cognitive dissonance. They text you a question they could have looked up online just as easily. The question was just an excuse. The real goal was to talk to you. Looking sad or cranky when out and about. Just because a person is cranky looking, doesn't mean that they are cranky. They could be trying to hide a lonely depression and it comes off the wrong way. You know, loneliness sucks. They say they are happy in not having friends even though they know that's probably not true. They wrap themselves in the idea that they're better off alone, like it's a security blanket. I know this because it's what I do daily. I don't do it because it is a security blanket. Some people genuinely enjoy their own company. I have a few friends I love being around. I just find most people really uninteresting and really boring. I would argue that friends just end up hurting you, because of a very shitty experience I had when I was younger. It left me jaded with people and unwilling to connect. Truth is, I just don't know how to go about making new friends anymore, and the thought of going out of my comfort zone gives me anxiety attacks. But 10 years in your house and only going to work will do that, I guess. Sure, some people would just rather be alone, but I'm sure plenty of those people are explaining away why they're alone. They isolate themselves in a group. Their timing is off and they mostly talk to 1 or 2 people. I'm a lonely person. I'm off all social media except Reddit, which is secret. I don't want a Facebook account because then I'll still be alone, just online. They never really have plans. They're available anytime you want to hang. They also tend to overshare their feelings and blatantly lie about their experiences, especially about their sex life. A really good sign is if they drop everything to talk to you if they randomly see in public. Instead if a casual nod or something of the sort. If they are willing to talk to you about your problems when you just met. Lonely people don't want others to know they're lonely, so they often indulge other people's feelings with advice or support to make it seem like they don't have problems of their own. However, the moment you show any interest they will usually bombard you with it. They also have a tendency to grow attraction really easily, and can confuse friendliness for sexual interest, which is a leading cause in their emotional problems. I'm very lonely, please love me. Well, I'll speak for myself here. I am a very clingy person because I don't know the next time someone will want to talk to me. I am very apologetic, often when I don't need to be, just to make sure I don't mess up with the few people who do talk to me. I always try to be there for people because for whatever reason I think it'll make them like me. Often they move on after I help. I don't say a whole lot in public anymore, mostly because I know that whatever I say will be shot down or passed over. Along the same lines, opting out of socializing on occasion due to the same fears. I spend a lot of time online, alone, trying to reach out to old friends, or pushing myself into some game. I used to roleplay a lot, but stopped after I couldn't find any more partners. It felt nice to escape into a life where I wouldn't be lonely. I'm not even using a throwaway because for whatever reason I'm hoping someone sees this and decides to PM me. Edit. You're all amazing. Thank you for the PMs. I didn't think it would actually go anywhere. If anyone is lonely and needs someone to talk to, I'm here for you as well. Remembering little details about the friends that you have because you don't too much to remember. You look at their face and realize that they're on the verge of tears. They don't actually cry, but work to hide it. But just below the surface, they're asking for understanding and to be included. Sometimes you just want someone to want you around, like it being a two-way street where it isn't just always you trying to make something happen when everyone else is semi-ambivalent. Dunno if that makes sense. I'm seriously fucked up right now. I just want one person to be genuinely interested in me. They would have trouble communicating as they haven't done it for some time. Trouble holding eye contact. I'm a long-time server at a restaurant and I have an unconventional form of identifying a lonely person. Scenario. A family of 4 goes out to eat. 2 parents, a 5-year-old, and an infant. Parents sit down, order, and pull their phones out. The child gets to color in, finishes, and tries to show his parents the masterpiece. But the parents don't look. Hell, most of the time they don't even respond unless it's to scold him for interrupting their phone time. Here is this child, literally asking and starving for his parents' attention. But it gets none. I bet the situation at home for him is the same, if not worse. When I see that, it pisses me off so much. I always try to learn the child's name, ask what he drew, then ask the parents myself what they think of it. I then have him sign it, then help me hang it up on the employee memo board. Also, to spite the parents, that kid gets free ice cream 100% of the time. Not even the worst parents would take away their child's ice cream. If I catch the parents eating it, I bring another and say, I noticed your parents eating your ice cream. This one is just for you, and restaurant rules say you can't share this one. I don't care when the parents glare at me or say something. I gave that child exactly what it needed. Social interaction with an adult. Goddammit parents. Figure this shit out. Put your phones down and talk with your kids. When someone scrolls through 100 comments of the thread on Reddit, what is a sign that someone is lonely? When their every waking moment feels like a nightmare they can't escape from. When they want desperately to reach out to anyone in arm's reach but don't have the energy to raise a finger because all they can think about is rejections from the past. When they have no future to look forward to and can only dwell on what's happened. Look at pictures from long ago. Listen to music from childhood. Not able to think, oh, those were good times. But instead only, how did everything get so fucked up? Lay in bed all day because there's nothing else to do. There's no one waiting to say good morning, good afternoon, or good night. No one to please or disappoint. Feels like you're losing yourself every day. Feels like you're forgetting everything you once were. Lose your personality traits. Lose your character. Lose your notable moments. Lose everything until the loneliness is all that's left to define you. Hope someone makes conversation one day, but fear that they'll ask what do you like to do and nothing can come out of your mouth because everything you used to enjoy is soured by the idea that they're better enjoyed with people who love you. Wake up every morning after a long sleep, but still feel tired. Lay awake every night, tired but unable to sleep. Want to be held, but no one's there. Have to hug a pillow, but it just doesn't feel right. Every day is the same. Shift constantly between time moving too slow and time moving too fast. Forget the past until it all comes rushing back, but you only get horrible memories of being all alone. Curl up in the bathroom and cry. Next day, wake up, lay in bed, go back to sleep, wake up, cry, can't sleep, cry some more. Think about suicide, too scared to do it. Next day, repeat, never ends. Think about everything you ever wanted. Wanted a childhood friend to stay with me for my whole life. Wanted a girlfriend in high school. Too late now. That time's gone. Will never experience teenage love. The opportunity has already dried up, if it was even there in the first place. Dwell too much on it, get sad and cry. Don't think about it and just feel nothing. Longing always to hold someone's hand, to hug someone, to kiss someone, to be loved by someone, to be held and told that's it going to be okay. Try to cry some more, but there aren't any more tears to shed. Not a single day goes by that feels like it has a purpose. Not a single day goes by that I feel makes things better. I just want a girlfriend. I can't stand to be alone anymore. It's painful every day and everyone who looks at me can see it. A good way to tell if someone's lonely is if they've heard the phrases "you'll find someone" or "don't worry about love right now" thousands of times. You can see them every day and they either look the same or worse. If you ever get access to their Reddit account, you see that all the posts they've downvoted are ones that mention a significant other. All the posts they've made are desperate cries for help. It's a horrible cycle that never ends. I cry every single day. I can't take it anymore. I drank a lot. I was very lonely because I stayed home and drank myself into oblivion. And I was lonely because I was too shit-faced to go out and socialize. My friends gradually drifted away from me. I became such an alcoholic that I was always the first one drunk at a gathering. And although not angry or abusive, I was apart from the pace of the rest of the group. I would interrupt conversations with comments that made sense to me, but would be met with blank stares, a few seconds of silence, and then someone would say, "Well, anyway," and then resume the conversation where I had interrupted it. That kind of drunk. Eventually I became a solitary drinker. It was killing me. I had a big hole in me, and I thought alcohol filled the hole perfectly. Actually, what I had done is modified the hole to fit the booze. Then I quit. 4 years ago, I joined AA, and I ended up a member of a fellowship wide and deep, and composed of people who really, truly understood me, and I understood them. Any evening I feel lonely, I can get a meeting, or pick up the phone and call any one of dozens of numbers in my phone. More importantly, I had a really good look at who I am, analyzed my behaviors, and looked deep into myself to find the fears that were driving me. This process literally transformed me into a better and happier person. I was able to pry my head out of my ass, and know that the world did not revolve around me and my troubles. I became more concerned about how I can be a positive influence in the lives of others, without any expectations of reward, or with a script in mind as to how it should turn out. You know what happened? I became a supportive, happy person. People became inexplicably drawn to me, and enjoyed my company. I was able to reignite friendships that had drifted into dormancy, and make new ones. I am a new person. Don't get me wrong. I still have holes in me, but they aren't shaped like booze anymore, and I am finally engaged in life, rather than hiding in my room with a bottle. I am a part of life, rather than apart from life. I have to credit our stop drinking for giving me the inspiration to set down my glass for good. It's been a struggle, and not all sunshine and kittens, but I wouldn't go back to that old life for all the tea in China. TL. Doctor, if you know someone who drinks heavily, alone, they are probably feeling very lonely. This thread is making me cry. You're all explaining how I feel perfectly. I wish I could relay myself this well, and I wish the people in my life could understand. Edit. Absolutely overwhelmed with all of the kindness. Thank you all so much. Once a girl I met on OKC texted me that I seem lonely, and I asked her why did she think so, and tech conversation stopped there. I'm still waiting for her to reply back. If so, I'll post that answer here. I don't know if I'm lonely or not, but will try to describe myself in an objective fashion. I have zero contact with people I used to go to school with, due to being ashamed of working at McDonald's full-time straight after it, while they are all off to uni and actually doing something with their lives. It's too late to just suddenly reconnect with them now, at least not until I prove my worth to myself with my current college course. Sounds ridiculous and shallow, but I know for a fact I'm capable of more than working at a hellhole and being treated like garbage. I don't really use social media apart from browsing Twitter and responding to tweets. Facebook just seems like a massive dick measuring contest between people with their pictures, as well as pointless memes and clickbait links. Right now, I've been at college since the start of January this year, with the same class of people. Speak to maybe 7 people at most out of 17, while everybody else seems to get along relatively well. This was also a problem in high school. I just couldn't actually speak to those people. No idea if it's a subconscious dislike of who they are or how they talk act, but it's strange. Could also be the fact that I've had long-standing confidence issues in these situations, and feel like I'm completely different from everyone else, like I'm an outcast or don't fit in. At the end of the day, it's a mixed bag of being content with my standing, and wishing I'd just get out more, which I am working on. Excessive daydreaming, otherwise known as maladaptive daydreaming. It is an extensive fantasy activity that replaces human interaction and/or interferes with academic, interpersonal, or vocational functioning. I used to do this a lot when I was younger, switching TV characters in and out of my daydreams and interweaving them with my own personal life in my head. I resonate too much with most of this and it all seems spot on. I'm really lonely. I'm a mildly attractive female in my 20s and I'm home alone on a Saturday night with my cats. Holy crap, it's Saturday. I totally forgot. That's probably not a good sign in this thread. Cats are such nice companions. I used to take care of a stray cat that lived in my street. He was always meowing me at midnight to let him in. We never played games, but he liked to sit on my lap and sleep while I petted him. They might not replace a human, but they sure know how to give love when you need it. I hope you find people to be with. Just getting more and more awkward over time in terms of social skills, for example. Frequently saying weird stuff in a normal conversation. Overdoing things, etc. Source: myself like 3 years ago. Not lonely anymore. Kinda goes hand in hand with depression, mental health, but if you see someone with 1,000-yard stare, please talk to them. Source: have had multiple people think that I am insane because I was just blank, but I was actually in a hole mentally. When they do something difficult on their own rather than ask for help because they didn't want to bother you. When I first moved to my university and didn't know anyone for 6 months, I tried to make friends and get to know people, but I was often far too overbearing and would weird people out. I think I just wanted to make one friend so I had someone to talk to in person and whatnot. There was this one time, back when Yik Yak was a thing, I commented about how I went to the school rave by myself and a really pretty girl accidentally private messaged me that she went alone too, when she just meant to comment on the same post. I didn't realize this at the time. I was drunk. Not even half drunk enough. This rave was shit, because I was a nervous wreck going to that kind of event without a friend and messaged her back if she wanted to meet up. No response. So I waited like an hour and eventually said that it would be nice if she could respond so I could go home if she wasn't interested. So desperate, she said sorry, she was busy, but she gave me her Snapchat. Poor thing. Acted like a fucking weirdo. Basically anytime I interact with a cute girl on Snapchat trying to get to know this chick, I mean she was pretty awkward too, but I was way too polite and nice. Probably came off as creepy, boring and desperate. Saw one of her posts on Yik Yak that her car got towed and messaged her if she was okay or needed a ride even though we had never met, and I was probably already considered borderline stalker by this point because of my unsolicited communications. I eventually gave up on that one and haven't tried with girls since, but I get hit on by all the gay guys. Which further feeds my insecurities about my appearance and masculinity. Then I decided to just sit on a bench at my university after class and play guitar. This special needs kid came up to me to talk about music. Turns out he was Ukrainian, not mentally retarded. Accent tricked me, and I was playing in front of the Foreign Affairs building. Oblivious. Made my first new friend in him and all my others came from meeting him. So, find a hobby, you beautiful, self-loathing fucks. To all in this thread, thank you. You just helped me realize one of my friends feels lonely. I'm gonna spend more time with her. Donating a bunch of money to cam girls, female YouTubers, female streamers in general. No, they aren't into you. And never will be. This makes me cringe so hard. Manipulation of vulnerable people at its finest. I've read interviews with people doing this. Some of the people actually believes it gives them a slightly higher chance of sex. So desperate and real is sad to hear. They are at a party but sit alone and avoid talking to anyone. At least that's what I do. I'm at a party right now as I type this, in a room all by myself. When they act uncomfortable around people, it's a sign they don't have regular social interactions. Not necessarily. I always act nervously around a few select individuals, and I'm pretty sure I'm not lonely. This is most definitely gonna get buried in the sea of comments, but I guess this is kind of a call into the void. How do I make friends? I don't talk to anyone for longer than a few days before they get bored of me, and any of the people I do talk to are guys who are attracted to me. The only kind of attention I get are from men who like me, but then become disinterested after a short time. But I don't really seem to have friends beside that. I have one friend from high school who I see once every few weeks, and my co-workers who I talk to at work, but who go out without me after work because I'm the only one at my job who's underage and can't drink. I'm ferociously lonely. I scrolled for a while and related to every comment, and I'm desperate to be accepted and noticed. I'm not the kind of person who will ask for advice and then argue with people who give me advice. I want to know what I can do to make legitimate friends and stop spending my free time on my own. Though I'm aware I'm pretty late to this post, and I'll probably not get any responses, I think I needed to vent a little. Edit. I'm honestly floored by the amount of kindness I've received in the past few hours. I legitimately thought my comment wasn't even going to be read, but I have gotten so many amazingly kind people in my inbox and in the comments, and I want to say thank you. To know I matter, even to just some strangers on the internet, means so much to me. So thank you to everyone who's replied, or PM'd me, or just read this dang comment. As someone who's there and fairly introspective, some people may think they know loneliness, but let me give you first-hand experience of what lonely folks like me do. When I see a happy couple, it eats me up inside. When someone is sharing their wedding photos and having their kids, I start thinking of how I pretty much don't have a family. I'm an only child. I have a diagnosed antisocial mom who ostracized me 3 years ago over something silly and changed her contact info. My dad committed suicide in part to my mom's actions. I was the skinniest I've practically ever been at 185. But gained it all back resorting to emotional eating when he died. And every time I think about a happy, loving family then look back to my empty shell of an apartment, it's that much more painful. I think people can tell with the above. I haven't been invited to a wedding in 12 years. I try not to hang out with those who are in relationships or those good at picking up people. Like I have a friend who's a total player that I avoid talking to since he'll just brag about having a threesome or the new skirt he's chasing when I haven't gotten laid in a year and consider myself lucky to even have lost my virginity at 27. 4 years ago. So fuck off to him. I avoid listening to sappy love songs or even conversational topics that have a heavy overtone about being in love, or anything that deals with love too much. I often have nights where I can't sleep since I'm so used to having a wife sleeping next to me. Outward sign. Every once in a while I'll show up to work mega tired. Why am I doing this to myself, you might ask? My ex-wife cheated on me and I divorced her sorry ass in October so that she can enjoy life with her fancy Porsche driving, house in the hills, having lawyer boyfriend, while of course, having a lawyer so meant she took me for everything I had. But to get back on the market, I either need a fucking unicorn or lose at least 75 more lbs. 250 now. Started at 261. Work out until I have a six-pack, arms that bulge out like crazy, bar mansion and hot shit car. Since apparently anything less than that makes me an undateable piece of shit, or at the very least a hypocrite if I try to approach a hottie. Dude, my friend bangs a new girl every week. I've never even gotten laid. I'm also fat, so that definitely doesn't help. When I see a happy couple, it eats me up inside. This used to be me. Then I met somebody, learned how it felt, and shifted to simply being happy for them. Then we broke up. I never met anyone else, and I slowly slid back to being bitter about it. I'm sorry about what happened to you. I also promise you that you don't need to have a mansion, a hot shit car, and a six-pack to pick up girls. It's easy to become bitter, but try to do something for yourself and feel good again. Discover a new hobby, learn something new, change your perspective. The people around you may even take notice. Easier said than done. I know. Best of luck. I wanted to say that too, but was afraid that it would be poorly received. In my experience, as a woman, men who are down in themselves don't want to hear anything other than, "You're right." Women just want rich, hot guys. Seriously though, do things that make you happy. Get a hobby. Spend time at bookstores or whatever things you enjoy, preferably places where women show up on occasion. There is nothing more attractive than a man who is interesting and secure in who he is. The rest is just details. It's like I tell my single friends, don't focus so much on finding the right guy. Instead, be the person you want to find. Ask yourself if you would date you. Why or why not? If you would only date super hot, physically perfect models, then yeah, you need to work on those abs and become physically perfect yourself. If you want someone kind, interesting, and stable, work on being that. Pity parties have sucky party favors. Loneliness can manifest in a lot of ways. Some people withdraw completely and avoid getting close to people. Some clear signs are their appearance. A disheveled look can be a sign of loneliness. Spending a lot of time on Reddit and other social sites instead of with real people. They've got an animal. They talk about the same topic all the time. They talk about personal stuff to you that really they should be telling a friend, family instead. When they post a lot on social media about fun things they're doing which are actually very mundane. I just frickin' gave up. My friends are my cigs, rum and sublime. I'm invisible. I'm 55, female and teach English in another country. I'm outgoing, friendly and compassionate, but the fact is that I'm old enough to be everyone's mother, so of course nobody wants to hang with me. Oh, and I'm too young to hang out with the old expats, and well, I just don't like those twats. WTF cares? Certainly not me. I'm going to carry on doing my own thing. FTW.